partitioning will collapse. That's it. It will be the end of the project of partitioning. So of course they will freak out. Of course they will freak out. But then they freaked out, and then they wanted to prepare for the next elections. Now, while others might suggest that preparing for the next elections should happen through winning the hearts and minds of Iraqis or fixing electricity, 75% of Iraqis don't have access to basic services, according to Amnesty International. 75% of Iraqis are not employed. Instead of finding employment, instead of putting advertisements in TVs and like posters, they decide to send 50,000 troops backed by the US to kill their political rivals. This is the Bush administration's advice on how to build democracy in Iraq. Send 50,000 troops to kill your political rivals. I mean, imagine if, like, Democrats or Republicans were sending 50,000 troops to kill the other party before the elections, I mean, imagine, like, would that be supported, I mean, maybe some people would. It doesn't sound like very bad after I said it, but I'm just saying, look what type of democracy is being promoted in Iraq. What type of violence is being supported by the Bush administration. The very important thing that was exposed in Basra, another proof that the US role in Iraq is not a peacekeeping force. They were not wearing blue helmets and waiting in the border to protect the Sunnis from the Shiites. They actually take sides. And this is what Iraqis have been saying for years now. Imagine if during the American Civil War, going back to that example, imagine if there was a foreign occupation with hundreds of thousands of troops taking sides, bombing the central government in Washington, and bringing the leaders of the South and putting them at the US president and the US, I mean, imagine how would that have played out. This is what's happening now in Iraq. The US is systematically, and has been systematically, taking the side of a minority of Sunnis and Shiites who are separatists against the majority of Sunnis and Shiites who are nationalists. So that's why the takeaway point from what I said today is that when people actually say this, oh, when we pull out the troops, the Sunnis and Shiites will cause a genocide, we'll understand where they are coming from, because this doesn't really exist on the ground. The major fight in Iraq is political and economic, and the majority of Iraqis are more than happy to deal with that through elections and through talking and discussing the issue, rather than bombing each other and killing each other. Now, one last point that I will address, because I think my time is out, right? Okay. Okay, so I'll address more than one point then. Regarding this sectarian issue, because it's very, like, the misconceptions about Iraq are gigantic, they're huge. And there's this, alternative history that was written of Iraq by the administration in the last few years that is not true. It doesn't build on realities on the ground. Like, for example, just to show you like how deceiving and manipulative the US government has been to justify the intervention. In the 90s, the reasons for staying in Iraq, they varied. One time it was protecting Iraq's neighbors from Iraq, one time it was protecting Iraqis from their government. At one moment it was protecting the birds in the marshes, because Iraq has marshes in the south. They were saying the Iraqi government wants to drain the marshes, so we have to keep the sanctions to protect their poor birds. And then after that, it became protecting the Kurds from the Arabs, and then the Shiites from the Sunnis, and now it's the Sunnis from the Shiites, or whatever. At one political moment, when they were protecting the Shiites from the Sunnis, what they told us is that the former Iraqi government was what? A Sunni-led regime, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is like many people in the US, like, yeah, Saddam Hussein was Sunni, therefore it was a Sunni-led regime. And I was, in fact, one of the major issues that I was talking about when I moved to the US in 2005 is that this is not true. I mean, I've never thought about myself as a Sunni or a Shia. I've never seen anyone in my life who says I'm Sunni or I'm Shia. Or like Shia community, Sunni community. These things did not exist before 2003. Myself, my life witnessing, I never saw these things. And I'm half Sunni and half Shia, by the way. My mother is Shiite and my father is Sunni. So it's not like I'm being biased or like apologetic to someone. Until I found this very interesting and important piece of evidence just to show, to deconstruct this myth of the former government being a sectarian, Sunni-led government. The 55 deck of cards that were printed by the Pentagon and the State Department, they had the pictures of Saddam and his sons. It had the pictures of the 55 top most wanted officials in the Ba'ath regime. You know about it, right? Now, these were actually the 55 top officials. I don't think many Iraqis will dispute that. I mean, we know them, they are very familiar. These are the 55 top officials. They were the political dictatorship that oppressed Iraqis. Now, the important part of information that no one talked about is that 36 of them were Shiites. So if it was really a Sunni-led regime, why would they put 65% of their leadership to be Shiite? Why were the two vice presidents a Christian and a Kurd who's a Shiite as well? Now, this is not to say that the former Iraqi government was nice or inclusive. I mean, if you think about it as a bad government because you read about it, I actually lived there. You know, I lost my relatives because of that. I had my mom's uncles thrown on the border in the 80s because they come from an Iranian descent. I know what discrimination means, and I lived through it, you know. So I'm not saying they were nice. I'm just saying they were a secular dictatorship. They were blind to people's sectarian or ethnic background. And saying that they were sectarian, and they were Sunni, and they were oppressing Shiites, is something else than saying they are a secular dictatorship. If they were really, I mean, saying that they are a Sunni dictatorship is equivalent to saying they are like the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, right? They are racist. Imagine, would the KKK put like 65% of their leadership to be African Americans? I don't think so. Right? I mean, it's equivalent to it, you know? I mean, we can't say that they are Sunni-led and then have 60% of the leadership to be